This episode is brought to you by Sabio, the #1 coding bootcamp for veterans. Visit sabio.la/military to learn more. And welcome to the Back Brief. I'm Rod Rodriguez.
I'm Jack Murphy.
And this is the Fast Take, folks. This is the Fast Take. So last week we talked with Dr. Richard T. Meehan. He's a rheumatologist at National Jewish Health, and he is the co-director of the Post-Deployment Lung Health Center. And I'll tell you what, folks, when I originally approached this story, I was thinking about burn pits mostly, because, you know, burn pits is this generation of warfighters, Agent Orange. And if you're not familiar, Agent Orange was a pesticide or an herbicide that was dumped all over Vietnam. The concept behind that was, if we kill the vegetation, we can see the Viet Cong because that's what they're hiding in. But we didn't think ahead and think, well, you know, hey, we're dumping this all over water supplies. We're dumping this into the forests where our guys are also at. We're dumping these herbicides on our own troops. And we didn't realize, or, you know, depending on who you ask, we didn't know the long-term ramifications of Agent Orange. Fast forward a couple of years, a lot of Vietnam veterans are beginning to die from a variety of illnesses. Now, here's where things get weird, right? Agent Orange doesn't kill you any one particular way. It destroys your immune system. It starts breaking your body down in a variety of different ways. So what was happening was these veterans were saying, hey, I'm dying from X, Y, and Z cancers. I'm dying from this immune deficiency. I'm dying from X, Y, and Z, all these different ailments. And the VA was saying, well, it sounds like you're just getting old. It sounds like you're just dying from other things. And it took the Agent Orange advocates a long time to connect everything. So now, if you are a Vietnam veteran and you can show like, hey, I was deployed to this place at this time, and yes, there was Agent Orange, and you have a certain set of illnesses, you don't even have to provide all the evidence to support those illnesses are directly related to Agent Orange. You're automatically in the system, like boom, you're covered. And all that to say that the next generation of Agent Orange is these burn pits, right? These burn pits where people were burning all sorts of trash, debris, but also toxic materials, chemicals, plastics. And if you were in the global war on terror, 2001 and on. In fact, I would say if you were in Desert Storm, you probably experienced burn pits. I saw it myself. I was a young E4, E3, stirring a pot of poop. This human feces and urine mixed with a special brew of Mo gas and JP8. It was like diesel. So, you know, I was there, and I was just telling you, Jack, right before we started that, you know, I lived in a tent next to a burn pit, and it was just like this giant pit that we dug out because there was no trash dudes. There's no one to pick up your trash or any of your refuse. So we just got an 88, I think it was it those wreckers with a big ass scoop in the front? Just boom, big ass hole in the desert, and I'm sitting in my bunk while these dudes, I kid you not, folks, and it's funny because if you're thinking about it today, we would never do this today. This is just not how we operate, but at the time, it seemed like a good idea. Old lithium batteries for our radios. Just throw them in the fire. And you would hear them pop. They would sizzle and pop. And all that lithium smoke, melted plastic, you name it, just wafting into our tent, and we're getting hot boxed with carcinogens essentially. And you know, we didn't think about it. We were like, wow, it's really smoking here. That sucks. But Dr. Meehan, his people are looking into these situations, not just with burn pits, but he's also looking at it from the perspective of the air is toxic. Jack, I shared with you that one of the revelations in that episode, and you heard it yourself, was the air in Southeast Asia is toxic in and of itself without burn pits, dude.
Yeah, I mean, think about, I mean, it depends where we're talking about, of course, but I mean, in a lot of those cities, I mean, Yeah, burning trash is pretty common. Open sewage, diesel exhaust. I mean, those are kind of the smells of some of those places.
And it's the particulates too. It's all these the dust. And that's the thing you got to remember, is that when you're in the deserts, there's no controlling this dust. And in fact, I was just doing a book about the Great Depression here in the United States back in the 20s, and the Dust Bowl that was a result of, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you know a little bit about this, but it seems to me like the Dust Bowl was a result of poor farming practices and a drought, that just like the perfect storm. But people were getting like lung diseases because of these dust storms that were sweeping across the Midwest of the United States. These dust diseases, and I remember, being in Iraq with these giant dust storms. It was like it would turn the world orange.
Yeah.
It looked like you were on Mars. So you look at that and you think to yourself, okay, well, there's definitely some validity to this. Guys, big takeaway from this fast take: go to the VA, get yourself checked out. Even if you feel fine, that was Dr. Meehan's messages. You may think you're fine. I don't smoke. I wasn't near burn pits. I wasn't doing anything bad. I feel fine. You feel fine right now. Get your baseline, go to the VA, tell your doctor, insist on it, pound on that door like, I want my baseline test. Don't say no to me. I want my baseline test. You get it, because when you're 60, 70, 80 years old, you're going to need that evidence to support, like, hey, my lung issues have been increasing and I can route this to my service disconnection. Get what's owed to you. So that's a big one. Folks, go listen to that episode. It's really important, and share it with other folks, not just GWAT. Share it with those Desert Storm veterans and your Vietnam veterans. Let them know, like, they're still fighting, man. It's important.
Funny how many of those things that, like, at the time we didn't think twice about actually like super bad for you. And combine that with just like everything else that, soldiers do: high altitude operations, subsurface operations, just leading sort of active lifestyle, doing PT when 100% humidity and all that other stuff. I mean, it all kind of adds up. I remember, like, now that we bring this up, I remember having a conversation with a guy. He was actually an Army veterinarian in Afghanistan. And we got to talking about how there are like strains of bacteria and stuff like that there that are different than we have here in the United States. And I asked him, this was 2004, so it's pretty early on in the war. And I asked him, I was like, what do you think is like the long-term impact of, us being exposed to this stuff and bringing it home with us? And he was like, we'll probably never know. Like, oh, that's reassuring.
Well, that's one thing that Dr. Meehan brought up as well, was they asked the government, they asked the military, hey, we need to do some studies about how the locals are doing. What do the locals' lungs look like? And they were told very, in his words, I believe they told him, we can't protect their personal information, so we're not going to do it.
Dude, I'm telling you, the mantra of the U.S. Army is no data, no problem. You don't have any data, you didn't collect the data on it, then there's no problem. Doesn't exist, right?
Nothing to see here, folks. Just a bunch of lung cancer. If you're looking to make a career change or still trying to find your path outside the military, I recommend checking out Sabio, the coding bootcamp and developer community that's helped so many veterans become successful software engineers. Sabio teaches you the skills to start a real high-paying tech job in just 17 weeks, online and from the comfort of your own home. Visit sabio.la/military to learn how you can use your VA benefits to enroll. That's sabio.la/military. So yes, definitely go check out that episode. No data, no problem. You can't prove nothing. Speaking of proof was flying around the air over these last 2 weeks since I last talked with you, Jack. We had an increased interest in our future war with China, especially after the Chinese balloons came flying through the U.S.
Because we have
plus some
a
UFOs.
Marxist Zeppelin over American airspace, pal.
We got to take it out, and we did, and we even got the U-2 pilot to how a selfie. Where are we at, America? That's what we're doing. You know what we needed? We didn't need a YouTube selfie, a U2 selfie. We didn't need a U2 selfie. We needed a U2 TikTok video. That's what I wanted.
It's a YouTube pilot. He doesn't know anything about TikTok. He's too old.
You say that. He's probably out there dancing to some video.
TikTok dance.
Doing TikTok dances, man.
I am flying
there you go.
against communist Zeppelins in space.
What do you think, Jack? Before we, this is a fast take. We can't spend too much time on this, but give us your, give me your quick 5-minute Jack Murphy take. Chinese air balloons, Zeppelins of communism. Is it the end of the world, Jack?
The thing I heard was that this it was the China. Yes, of course, it's Chinese intelligence. They wanted to fly over Guam, Hawaii, a few other places with their hot air balloon and spy on us. And the current caught it, and it drifted over the continental United States. And you know, I mean, like everything with Chinese espionage, it's very serious and it should be taken seriously. But it's also important that we don't go into a freaking panic and think this is like some existential thing that's going to wipe us out. Like this is like a long-term project to counter, let's call it what it is, Chinese imperialism. So yeah, running around with our hair on fire is not a good idea ever. And I think it's unfortunate that American culture really has a hard time grasping slowly escalating threats. We respond to emergencies. When something goes really bad, like 9/11, or even something like the way climate change is described as like the climate change apocalypse, like the people branding these things have to make everything apocalyptic or Americans don't pay attention. And that can kind of become the narrative around national security as well. You know, we got to go and fight the terrorists in Iraq before we have to fight them in small town USA. And some of these things don't really make sense. Maybe we should take a step back and again, like I said, take it very seriously. But panicking and screaming at each other about it definitely doesn't help.
I think it's just fascinating how everybody freaked out about this. And to your point, we don't handle slow escalation or slow immersion into anything. We don't handle slow very well. It's either a panic, hit the button, it's an emergency, or it's not happening at all. And believe me, the enemy, our foes, our adversaries, they know this. That's why they're like, they'll slowly
incrementally move. Yeah.
Incrementally. Yeah. It's a vat of it. They're just trying to dip us in the acid so slowly that by the time we're dead, we're like, oh, was there acid? I didn't feel it. It was a tingly sensation.
Or by the time when they say like, hey, half your body's dipped in acid, people will be like, oh, well, that's been happening for like 20, 50 years anyway. So what's new? What's different? Who cares? You know,
whatever. And they'll blame each other. It was the damn Republicans. It was the damn Democrats. Love it. Gotta love it. Folks, go check out our story. I believe it was last season. Was it this season? I can't remember. I get so confused sometimes. We've done enough episodes. Future war with China. We go past, I'd like to say we float beyond the hot air balloons, folks. We talk about the subjects related to the war in China, to the war with China that could happen in a realistic sense. And don't make any mistake, Taiwan is still a major part of that discussion. Taiwan, microchips, ballistic missile policies. This is a situation that goes beyond balloons. There's a lot of real world issues that could play into war with China. Go check it out. Military Matters. Make sure you share that episode with folks who are freaking out about hot air balloons and just explain to them like, hey, there's a lot more to freak out about. Just, hold our beer. Folks, that does it for this fast take. Make sure you follow us on the old Twitter, Stripes MM Pod. You can follow me, Rod Pod Rod. And of course, you can follow Jack Murphy at Jack Murphy RGR. What's really fun about Jack is you can find him at Jack Murphy RGR on literally every single platform. He's very consistent in his branding. And as always, if you can go to Stars and Stripes, use promo code podcast and get 50% off your digital subscription to Stars and Stripes. Folks, that's a thing. Like, I've always enjoyed Stars and Stripes, and it's a fair publication, one of the fairest, one of the most down the middle. They're going to tell you how it is, leave you to make your own decisions. Amazing stories about the issues that should matter to you: housing, military pay, what's going on in the DoD, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can get it from Stars and Stripes for 50% off if you use promo code podcast. All right, folks, that does it for us. I'm Rod Rodriguez. That was Jack Murphy.
Thank you, Rod.
Bye.
See you guys next time.
It was such a boomer thing he just did. He raised his hand and he forgot for a moment that he's in audio because we're doing
but I can see you, Rod. You're my audience. You're the audience that I care about.
I'm the only audience you might have someday.
That's true.
Oh boy, let's start a new movement. Save Jack Murphy. All right, folks, that does it for us.
Sending me to the glue factory.
We'll see you at the next
already.
episode. We're out. This episode is brought to you by Sabio, the #1 coding bootcamp for veterans. Visit sabio.la/military to learn more.